Welcome everybody, and thanks Shaun for joining us in this, what I think is a really important discussion about not only that, that we survive death, but that our loved ones can remain part of our lives. And I know that this may be hard for the average person to understand. It was something that I didn't understand myself, even though I'd been working in this field as a psychic, channel, and medium for 35 years. I never thought that my husband would come back from the other side and say that he was returning and that we were going to continue our relationship. That thought never occurred to me. I believed that we, of course, survive death because I've had a lot of evidence of that. But the idea of continuing our relationship, that had never been even a thought. So we want to talk about this because it's a real thing. I didn't know it was a real thing until it happened to me. And then I heard from other people who said, well, I've experienced my partner or my loved one as well, including you, Shaun, right? When I first met you, and I was stunned because, I think you were at that point, because it was early on in my journey, that you were one of the few people I met who said, oh yeah, I connect with my mom. Like, she appeared to me when she died. And I thought, well, Alan didn't appear to me, but he sure started talking to me like loud, because I'm clairaudient since I'm a professional channeler, so I could hear him. And I still stunned, right? I was still like, couldn't believe that he's talking to me. And when I was talking back to him, I still felt weird talking to the air. Like, okay, I don't see you physically, but I'm talking to you. It was still hard for me. Okay, so I'm here to tell everybody, it doesn't matter how psychic you are. If this starts happening to you, you do start questioning, because you're not prepared for that. I don't care who you are. You're not prepared for it. And I have heard from other mediums who've kind of said similar things, or even had trouble, connecting with their loved one across the veil, because our society just doesn't accept us, let alone, understand it, like forget about understanding it. So I am here, and I think Shaun agrees that he's here too, to tell people this is really happening, folks. And if you want to continue a relationship with somebody through the veil, it's possible. I can't guarantee you it's going to happen. There are a lot of factors. There's a lot of things involved. I don't pretend to be the expert in it. I'm just the expert in my experience. Like, that's it. And maybe the other experiences I've heard other people relay to me that are in my Facebook group that my husband asked me to create about a week after he died. He asked me to form a Facebook group, which I thought was hilarious because he hated Facebook. He literally hated Facebook. He'd say, what are these stupid notifications showing up on my computer, And I had to tell him how to shut it off. He didn't want to be. So when he came back and said, I want you to form a group, I thought, am I crazy? Because that sounds crazy to me. And he said, no, I want you to form a group because I want you to share what's happening to you, because you're going to find that other people are having the same experience. And I couldn't believe that. So I said, all right, well, we'll see. So we went forward. But I want to backtrack here a bit, and going back to when I heard that Shaun had his experience with his mom, and he reached out to me, and I think you said, Shaun, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you just kind of said you knew it was real, and you knew what I was doing with Alan was real. And I respected you so much because, as a lot of people know, you're the head of Hawaiian Ions. And I actually had no clue what Ions was until I met you, even though I'd had a spiritually transformative experience. But yeah, that meant a lot to me. And I know you brought in a lot of people who were curious about this, but you've had such a diverse experiences in my view, because you've had 3 NDEs, well, 3, right? At least 3, right? And then your mom appeared to you. I've had 1 spiritually transformative experience, and then I count this one that I'm having now as the second one. So I'd say you're having a STE, at least with your mom, okay? Because you're the one that said to me, yeah, spirit communication is a form of STE. Right. And obviously it is, because I've seen people transform with these communications. So I don't want to spend a lot of time going into like my story, my history. I mean, I've been doing this work for 35 years here in Hawaii with clients all over the world, and have taught channeling. And in fact, I'm going to be teaching a free channeling workshop in my group, which is for bereaved people who are seeking to connect through the veil. Because I want to talk more about these experiences rather than, my background. But I did want to give my hats off to you about, all your expertise and how you've really helped me understand a lot more about all of this, because I've seen what you've gone through with your mom, and I know you're going to share not only what you've had happen with your mom, but also with other members of your family, with which I joked with you, like they're fighting to get to the head of the line to talk about how they connect with you, right? That to me is just so evidence, more evidence that they're with us, because they're still like the same in so many ways. My husband was such a larger than life character. He was so funny. He still is funny. And he comes through that way, and people, connect with him. They say, "Oh my God, he's so funny." I said, "Yeah, you have my apologies. He's just this joker, and yet he's very caring and concerned about people, and he's doing his best to help from the other side." So in our work, he helps loved ones in spirit come through to the folks here. That's what he told me he was going to do when he crossed over and returned. And I said, "How are you? What is that even a thing?" And he goes, "You'll see." And I really honestly did not believe him until people started telling me that, yes, I heard Alan, or my loved one told me that Alan was helping him to come through to me. I mean, I hear stories like this all the time. So I can't make that up. I can't make up what other people are volunteering and telling me. So I know something amazing is going on. We're going to get to talk about it today. But in my opinion, before I turn over to you, because I really want you to share about, your mom and family. If anything, I feel like they're pushing in here, like, let us talk. But what I want to say is, I think that this phenomenon is only going to increase, because that's what Alan said. And he's always telling me, well, I'm always right, is what he tells me. Like, and he has been right, like every time. I actually kind of hate to say it, because when he was in a body, he was always trying to pretend he was always right, but he seldom was. Now he's like, I really am always right. So he says that because of the transformation that's going on, with the planet, the ascension, and more of us are waking up to who we really are, that it's making it easier and easier for us to reach through the veil. And that just makes sense to me, because as our consciousness rises a bit closer to the threshold with the other side, although we can't cross it because that is non-physical, you have to be non-physical to be over there. But you could certainly get real close to hear them, or even see them periodically, or he's saying even get to the point we see them all the time, because I do know people who do see spirit all the time when spirit wants to be seen, because it's up to them too. It's not like you get to see everything just because you're clairvoyant. But that's a story for another time. But I want to get really down to the nitty-gritty about, about the things they do for us, because spirit can heal us, guide us, help us. They're doing that all the time, all day, every day. And most people are walking around not even aware that they're being helped and guided. But oh, how your life transforms when you realize you are being guided and you start listening to that. You start following that. Then life gets not only good, it gets somewhat, magical, because you're really opening a door to fuller possibilities that for you. So with that, I want to turn over to you, Shaun, and have you share about, because I think your mom is first, if I'm picking up right.
Heather, my niece, are both very, very strong here today. So I, first of all, want to welcome everyone and thank you all again for coming. And Pam, it's so nice to be with you. And so what is pretty amazing, but I'm used to, and I love this kind of stuff, is today turned out it is actually the newest member of my gang, which is who I call my guides, the people that have helped me, that and are daily helping me, is my niece. Heather, who transitioned 2 years ago today. And I didn't even realize, because I don't pay attention to dates. And it wasn't until earlier, like an hour or two ago, that I realized that. So there's no coincidence, because also 2 years ago today, what Pam and I were doing our first thing together with Trisha Barker on Trisha Barker's MDE Summit. So it's pretty amazing, that synchronicity. So yeah, they're all here. And so a lot of people know some of my story, but when my mom transitioned in around 2015 in the fall, I had always had these abilities and gifts, but I think because of early NDEs, but I stopped trusting and listening. And it really took my mother to help me to learn how to listen again. So when she passed, I was in a lot of conflict, and I was going through my own experiences and struggles here in Hawaii. And I didn't know what to do about going to the memorial that at first they weren't going to have, and then they decided that they were going to have one rather shortly. So the first thing, it had been about a day since she transitioned, and she told me not to go. And instead, she showed me this place, a garden, because I'm into plants. My mom's very much into plants. I was a landscaper. She's a florist. And she really taught me the love of plants. So she showed me this beautiful garden, and with these tall, like pine tree looking trees and a log. And she was sitting on this log. And she said, go there, that's where I'll be. And I didn't know where this place was. And, but I said, okay. And it took a period of time. And I was questioning that, because that was the first time she came through. Well, as time went on, also something that I've talked a little bit is my mom had a lot of mental health issues. She herself had an NDE like in the 70s. And back then they didn't really know what it was. And she ended up in a lot of mental institutions and had a lot of issues. And that's also one of the big blessings, that we can actually heal stuff with our loved ones from the other side. And so she started coming to me, and I didn't understand why. And that was one of the first things I asked her is, why are you here? And she said it was to be the mother she couldn't be in life. And then, so when she was alive, there would be these moments, lots of times where I felt she was possessed. And she would chase me around the house with a knife, tried to kill me. All kinds of pretty awful stuff occurred. And one of the first things she did after she transitioned, and she had told me to go to that place, which I still hadn't found, but she started showing me things. And so she started to show me the way, basically her life from being born, how it was for her parents. And she literally gave me a complete view of her whole life. So it was like, now that I have this 360 view, there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing, I had a complete understanding for the way that she was and why she was that way. So as time was going on, so as she started getting, she was very strong. I was not very strong. I now realize, our pineal gland, third eye, whatever you want to call it, it's like a muscle. It takes some training, and I had none before that. So it would exhaust me and so forth, but she was really strong. So one day I was typing an email to my sister, actually sharing with her about those times when my mom was alive and I thought that she was possessed, and she actually had confirmed to me that I was right. She was, and she explained why and how that happened. And so as I was writing this email, all of a sudden my mom grabs my arm. And you know what your own mother's hand feels like. It's unmistakable. And it just blew my mind. So I kept typing to my sister, but as I was doing it, I was in tears. And I still have this email, like I said, you're not going to believe this, but mom is grabbing my arm right now. And so as I proceeded on the email, and then about an hour went by and I went to make espresso. And I actually looked up on the mountaintop where my espresso maker was facing, not knowing that that's actually where Pam lives, and not knowing that a little bit later, my mom was going to appear to me on the top of that mountain. And so as I went to make the espresso, the hair on my left arm was standing straight up. The hair on my right arm was completely, laying down. And that was really the first time that I'm like, okay, I have some physical evidence here. This is real, because I came in contact with some energy force on my left arm. So anyway, within a few months after that, my sister had come and visited, one of my sisters, and we were going to do some sightseeing, do some things that I'd never done. And we started in this one valley here. It's called Manoa Valley. And I did not know any of this at the time, but Manoa Valley is the oldest continually habited part of this island. And all kinds of things happen there. So we were sitting under this tree, and I started getting like this vertigo, dizziness. I couldn't figure it out what was going on. And we were parked and she was on the phone, and I said, we got to drive, move. Something's making me not feel right. So as we're driving through this valley, I was getting more and more like vertigo, like altitude sickness. And then we started heading up this mountain, or a hill. It's only like 3,000 feet maybe. And we're going to this park that we had wanted to see. So as we're going up that hill, what was crazy is I'm used to mountains. I was born in Salt Lake City, and I had a cabin at 9,500 feet in California. So I can handle altitude. But we're going up this hill. By the time we get up to the top, we get to this park, and I go to get out of the car, and I'm now so delirious, I basically tripped and did a face plant in the dirt. And so we sat on a table and kind of got my bearings together, and we started going for a walk on this trail. And as we're walking, my sister's to the right, I'm a little bit behind her on the left, and I look over, and there's my mom sitting on the log in the garden that she had shown me almost a year before. And I'll never forget that experience. And it was the most amazing thing. And what's kind of funny is then me and my sister were trying to take pictures and everything to see if my mom would appear on the camera. She did not. And she did not, leave any orbs either, but from then on, my mother has been with me daily and helping me in everything I do. She still would never tell me when I would ask why she was here, other than to be the mother she couldn't be when she was alive. Well, what she didn't let me know is I was getting ready to have a major NDE. And I'll back up to something that's kind of interesting. My mom has always been a master astrologer and does everybody's charts by hand. And in fact, we were LDS, and they kept threatening to excommunicate her if she didn't stop doing people's charts. But she was really good. And she had done my chart and told me all this stuff when I was a kid, and like foods that I shouldn't eat and so forth. But she actually predicted and said that at 50, you're going to die or something major is going to happen. And she told me in such a way, that this is something that could happen. This is a possibility. It's not set in stone, but she had always wanted me to know of possible things that were going to happen in my life. So on my 50th birthday, I was in the ICU and having, to me, which was more of a rebirth. I got to die, but I got to come back and do it all again. So I am grateful for my mother, and I'll talk a little more about, I do have to mention something I've never really said since you had talked about Alan with the Facebook group. So before my NDE, but after she started coming to me, I was doing marketing. I'd been doing marketing most of my life. And I was sending out, emails to clients and stuff, helpful emails on how to do your marketing and so forth. And like most marketing newsletters, nobody ever responded. And sometimes it would be frustrating. So my mom said to me, stop casting your pearls before swine. And my mom was not computer literate, did not know how to use Facebook or Twitter or anything. She told me to go to Twitter, and she said, start sharing, because I would share helpful marketing tips. And she said, start sharing it to Twitter, and the right people will see it. And I didn't even know how to use Twitter. So I started doing that. I just followed her advice. And, first a few followers, then 500, then 1,000. I got up to 40,000 followers and was one of the biggest business marketing tweeters on Twitter. And this was a direct result of her. And so I'll just share now that many people might have seen that, like, our Life After Death group is now 203,000 people. I know that she and Heather and the rest of the gang are behind this. And what I've learned is if I just listen, they're here every step of the way to help. What do you want to share now, Pam? I'm going to take a break.
No, I love it. Take a break. Do you want to breathe? I love it. I love it. Yeah, I believe, like you and I have talked about, we think the internet is really run by spirit, right? I mean, really, the spirit world created everything, folks. You think the stuff here just landed? No, it started as an idea from spirit world, planted into somebody in a body who then created it, right? It's not like Alan's laughing. He goes, we're not that smart, okay? Like people in a body. We get inspired. People get inspired. They get the brilliant idea and it comes from their side. So yeah, I think that they're behind it. I mean, I've had people that found me and they'd go, I don't know how I even found you. I saw your YouTube popped up on my channel. I didn't know, or somebody actually Googled us and found our group on Google. Okay. And private Facebook groups are not supposed to show up on, Google. It's if you're public, it might, because you're set to public, right? But private, no. I've had people say, no, I found you when I Googled supernatural, I guess, relationships or something, or supernatural and afterlife. So anyway, yeah, we do show up like number 12 on Google, and Alan goes, don't worry, we'll get up there. We'll get up higher. But it's because they're guiding people to us, because they've always guided us, and that's just how it works from the other side. And I know that because I've been in this field for 35 years. So I've always done what I was guided to do, even when I didn't want to, or I didn't like the idea. And I'd go, wait, really? You want me to learn Reiki? Like, I wasn't really into Reiki. And Alan actually poo-pooed Reiki. He was not really open to modalities, let's just say. And I was. So when I heard Spirit say, we'll learn Reiki, and I really didn't want to, but I said, okay, because every time I've listened, I've always been blessed. I mean, in one case, it even saved Alan's life because they guided me to go into real estate of all things. And it led to us eventually me becoming a mortgage broker, which was a joke because I was terrible. But I got medical insurance that saved his life. So he had a heart operation. And that only happened because I was listening to my guidance and they said, go into real estate. And I thought, really, real estate? You got to be kidding. Like, and I took the test and had to retake it because my broker failed to register it in time. And he told me, and I go, what? I have to retake the test? And I decided I was just going to test my intuition and see if I could pass it, without studying. And I did because I went through the test. I knew the information, but then 3 months later, I took the test again, went through the question. If I wasn't sure, I'd go, okay, what's the answer? And I'd choose the answer and I passed. So I got insurance, saved Alan's life. And that's how it is. And I cannot imagine living another way, but being, true to my guidance. So it's not that spirit's trying to tell us what to do. They're not dictators. The word guide is the operative word. Like, we're here to guide you as to what you decided you wanted, as to what your higher self has in mind for you, not what we want for you, because it's not about us. It's about you. Or, okay, now I'm saying it's really about us because we're part of that team. Okay, that's something that not everybody understands. You're not this solitary person living on your own. You're part of this collective and you always have been. So they're part of you, you're part of them. They are kind of experiencing this world through you. It's always been that way. And every single person has guidance, even if they don't believe in it. And that guidance comes through your feelings, like what do you feel passionate about? What are you curious about? What do you feel called to do? And sometimes they'll actually tell you, like, go
And
learn.
I want to interrupt real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will forget. When they speak to us, it's always loving, peaceful, more silent. I hear people talk about their guides yelled at them or whatever. Guides, if somebody's yelling at you, it's not your guides. It's something else is going on, because it's loving, it's nudging.
Yeah.
If you mess up, they don't punish you or
No.
yell at you because you said that. It's so important, because I hear these people saying my guides yelled at me. I'm like, I don't know who's yelling at you, but it's not your.
Or they might need to get new guides. I don't know, because that's not how it works. Because if you're really in trouble, the other side, like whether you call it your guides, your angels, whoever, right? They can actually intervene. Okay, like I've experienced that where they made something happen, or they made me slam my foot on the brake so that I wouldn't get hit by this car that run the stop sign. That kind of thing has happened to me a couple of times. And I'll go, why did I put my foot on the brake? I didn't even know anything was happening, but they'll take over if that's not meant for you to happen, right? If that's not, something you're destined to go through. So they don't have to yell. I mean, I had Alan show a word like in big letters in my head that said urgent care, go to urgent care. And I go, okay, I get it. Go to urgent care. And I still didn't believe it. So I called my friend Swati. Hey, I think he's telling me to go to urgent care. She goes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. I'm hearing him right now. Go to urgent care. You need to go to the doctor. Okay. So they have a way of, but he wasn't yelling at me. He was just showing the word like really big.
And they can physically intervene. So when I got out of the rehab hospital, I had over a year of home physical therapy, occupational therapy, and I was on a walker. And one of the ways that to get off my walker, I would go up and down the hallway of my building, and I would lift up the walker and then carry it as far as I could and then put it down and use it. Well, I worked really hard because basically my whole body had shut down to die. And when everything shuts down to die, it's not like it just restarts, and especially for me, because it was a long process. And so it was a long process to come back too. But anyway, I was going up and down the hallway, practicing, and I exhausted myself. And all of a sudden, I was ready to crash and go down. And as I'm going like this, literally, my mom grabbed me and tilted me up and held me so that I could get back to my condo. And so, yeah, I just want to reiterate that there is so much help that they are here. If we will just allow them, it's our false beliefs and our judgments and holding on to the past that prevents us from hearing them, because they so desperately want to love us and to help us. And in many cases, they want to make amends or apologize for things that they did when they were in a body, when they didn't know better. But I want to also they introduced me and Pam, because I pretty much, I thought I knew everybody on this island, right? That was into what I do, and everybody always introduces anybody on this island. But for whatever reason, we did not know each other. And it happened in such an amazing way, where a friend of mine introduced us by email. And what was really cool also is, so they started playing music. One of the many ways they communicate to us is through music. And for me, in the ICU, Daniel Goki's song, Tell Your Heart to Beat Again, started playing for me in the ICU, and then throughout the hospital room. And then when I was doing a medical transport from the hospital to a rehab facility, and then from the rehab facility to my condo, and then the next, after that first weekend home, after 3 months in the hospital, when I had to go to physical therapy the next morning, on the Monday morning, the car's waiting for me, and I go down to the lobby, and what song is playing but this Tell Your Heart to Beat Again. Yesterday's a closing door, you don't live there anymore. And so from then on, my mom got really good at sending songs that were absolutely perfect, exactly what I needed. And I would be like, even in long drugs or something, and that background music, and you don't really pay attention to it, right? You don't hear it. But what would happen is, all of a sudden, it was as if the crowds parted, everything else, the people, the background, it all kind of went away. And this song would come through, and I would know it was from her. And so at that time, most people here kind of like, oh yeah, we're like sick of listening to your songs from your dead mother. But Pam also has a playlist from her husband. And that was like our instant connection too. It's like, oh, you have these songs too. And I love that. So I just needed to share that.
That was funny. Yeah, I did. Yeah, when I met you, like, you have a playlist too. Like your mom. Now Alan's not as good as your mom making the songs play, in Long's Drugs or anything. It's more through other people, or I'll hear a song play randomly, and all of a sudden I feel this wave of energy just knock me over, and I'll go, "Oh my God, you like that song?" Like, I don't even necessarily like it at that time, and then it'll just hit me. But yeah, I just did a live for my group last week, this past week, about music building a bridge to heaven, because it's so easy, if you think about it, for spirits to pluck the songs that are going all through the air all day, every day, right? Because everything is energy, everything is digital, and get that song to just play on your device. Like with Alan, he made the song that he gave me through a medium. He gave me the Bee Gees song, Too Much Heaven, for our anniversary. And he made that song play on my AirPods, when I just opened this and put it in my ear, and no device was playing, nothing was on, and that song was playing. Okay, the whole song played. And then at the end of it was some terrible heavy metal song that I had to pull the AirPods out of my ear, and the music was still playing through the AirPods, and I couldn't turn it off because there's no device to turn off. So I said, Alan, cut it out. This is enough already. And then it just shut down. So I know they can do stuff like that. He says it's so easy, to just pull a song and somehow give it to us, or make it play on the radio when you flip it on, right? So yeah, that is, yeah, you reminding me, I forgot about that. You and your mom and the music, and we both had playlists and that whole thing. And that I live on the hill where you saw your mom, that we have to go up there. Like I told you, I think if we go up
Yeah.
there, maybe our heads are going to explode
Right.
because
Pam and
I
I
don't know
still
what's
haven't
going to
been in
happen.
that park together. So, which by the way, I didn't mention, probably a lot of you guys know about portals, you might have heard of. And we have those all over Hawaii. I didn't
Yeah.
really know about them. And so, but now I do, because ironically, about 6 months after my NDE, when I was home, and I had a travel channel on the background in a plane, and it talked about the portals of Manoa. And and that tree where I first was getting dizzy with my sister, a lot of people see what they call night marchers here, which is the spirits of the old guard that circles the island. So all the places that I was getting this vertigo in Manoa was because they were different portals. And I barely understand it now, but basically, so on the top of the mountain where Pam lives, it was easier for my mom to come into physical form, and she had to do less work and I had to do less work by there in that place. So yeah, Pam and I have joked, since neither one of us have been there together.
I'm kind of afraid to go with you. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to have to let my son know. Okay, I'm going up the hill with Shaun. If I don't come back, can you come look for me? Because I don't know what's going to happen. But it's true that elevation actually does matter. I mean, maybe it sounds like too commonsensical, but why do you think those monks live in the monastery so high up in the hills of Tibet, right? Like there's a reason for everything. So elevation is definitely a factor. And yeah, the fact that there are portals. And I think it's interesting because Hawaii is still rich with that, because if you think about it, the people, the native Hawaiians, they have not been long gone from the island, from the land, right? They're compared to other indigenous peoples. So Hawaii is a relatively young, I want to say state, but a young location, place, certainly population. So it's it's amazing. Yeah, there's no place like Hawaii. I'm not saying that just because I'm born and raised here, but just because it's just the truth. Plus, it's the most remote, one of the most remote locations on the planet.
Yeah. So yeah, and I want to mention back about the songs again, because there's something that my mom did that it wasn't just for me. It was actually to help somebody else. And I don't think I've really shared this, but so after my NDE, I started doing support groups here for people who have been through traumatic experiences like that, and people with terminal illnesses and so forth. And in one of these groups, I had met, became friends with, he was a Vietnam vet and had all kinds of issues. And basically, he became schizophrenic and had several other issues. And the military doesn't always take care of the vets like they should. And he was having trouble, his psych meds or whatever were not working. And I tried to get him into a clinic that I knew, but for whatever reason, they turned him away. And I was kind of flipping out, because to have somebody with psychotic manic episodes who's actually been in all kinds of facilities and even in prison, it's not good to not have them have their meds. So I was really stressed and I didn't know what to do. So all of a sudden, so there's this song called You Say by Laura Dingle, I think is her name. And basically, and that was one of the songs that my mom had sent me before. And there's many meanings, but in this song, it's talking about, I keep hearing voices in my head, and there's only one voice that matters, and that's the voice of God or source, whatever you want to call it. And all the other it's just noise and ego and issues. So literally my mom sends me that song and says, send that to him. And this guy didn't really know a whole lot about me and my experiences and my mother who's passed on, but all I knew is he needed help. And so I sent him this YouTube video. And I just, I said, this is gonna sound a little crazy, but listen to this song deeply and realize that all those voices that you're hearing are not real. Just focus on the one voice. And it was a huge miracle because he somehow made it, and he was on edge, like something was going to happen, and he made it through. So she was able to help somebody else, and I just love that. So I haven't shared that. And by the way, for everybody who has questions, we'll do a question and answer towards the end that you can share with whatever you want to share. And yeah, Karen Michelle will ask about the portals afterwards. And then later also, Karen Michelle has a playlist as well. So one of these days, I guess we'll just have to have a party where everybody brings their playlist from the other side. Yeah, so I just think it's so important that people know, and that's really why Pam and I are wanting to do this today, is that there's just so much love available to us and guidance and support. I mean, my mother, she has guided me to the right doctors, and I always know. I mean, you just always know. And she's guided me to where I live right now.
Yeah.
And, I'll just briefly share that I went through a kind of a dark period having a lot of stuff that I was having to deal with. And I had to move from what had been a safe place for me, that after a lot of trauma and my NDE, and I had this safe little cocoon, but it was time for me to leave. And every time I'd find a place, I thought, okay, this is it. This is an alignment. This is where I'm supposed to go. It's where my gang says I'm supposed to go. We're all in agreement. Okay, we're going. And then something would happen and it would fall through. And it kept getting to it kept happening over and over and over again. And I haven't had many of these periods, but I started to have a little bit of a dark period. Like, what's going on here? Why are you guys making me feel this is where I'm supposed to go? And then it falls apart. And what I learned is that, and it was hard, it was very hard. They were moving me from a place from trust to know, and to also know that, in one moment, something may be right for you. And then an hour later, something else may be right for you. So really learning to discern, and trust and know that we're taken care of. So I'll just share. So it was like at the 11th hour, my landlord was like trying to evict me, and I was not finding a place. And at the 11th hour, I'm surrendering. I'd found this one place, but it was just kind of a dump. I surrendered to it. And then I got a message from somebody else about an hour later. This like dream apartment, amazing views, huge lanai, like just apps. I mean, it's amazing. Comes through. Oh, got to back up. So I'd asked my mom the night before and my gang. I said, I need help here. I'm giving up faith, and I'm giving up. It's starting to get dark. It's at the 11th hour. I need to know you're with me. I really need to know you're with me. And so then I was surrendering the next day to this other place. And all of a sudden, this other unit comes through. Amazing. I go to meet with the potential landlords that night. I get off the 12th floor, and in a giant life-size print of my Zoom background was the first thing I saw when I got off the elevator. And I knew instantly right there, there's my sign. And literally everything was approved within a few days. And it was like, and then everything went clockwork, like as if I was on track again with them. So really, for me, the message is just constantly to listen and to trust, and they will always be helping.
Yeah, and your place is amazing. I'll attest to that, because I walked in the door and I thought, oh my God, like it is. I mean, I know you need furniture and all that stuff, but you got the bones of a great place, and yeah, it's very cool that you could see the Alwai Canal and the ocean like from your lanai, and you don't have the direct sun just pouring into you. Who needs that? I don't have that either, by the way. It's the sun crosses over me and I don't have to get it in my eyes in the afternoon. So yeah, it was about surrender, right? And how do we learn faith if our faith isn't tested? That's the whole point, and so now you came to this place of knowing, and this won't happen again, right? Like you'll go, all right, I know you're guided. And I have to learn that too. By the way, guys, just because you follow your guidance doesn't mean everything works out. Like that's happened to me too, where I'll go, well, you guided me to this. What the hell is that about? It didn't come through. And they'll go, keep affirming that whatever happens is for your own good, because it is. Just don't give up. Just keep doing that. It's not supposed to be, like this, snap your fingers constantly. That's on the other side. Here, you wanted to stretch yourself, have a little challenge, and so
and we're not supposed to know everything. Just like my mom, she didn't tell me, buckle your seatbelt because you're going to go downhill and die and spend months in the hospital.
I don't think she would have told you you're going to die.
She didn't say anything. And I now realize that there's just certain things we're not supposed to know until it's time.
Well, this is what I learned. Spirit works in the now, right? Everything's now. It's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday, now. So they give you in the moment what you need to know now, not a second sooner. And I have a good example of that I tease Alan about, because he gave me this good story to tell my students about that spirit only tells you when you need it, the exact minute, not moments sooner or later. So he would drive too fast, like a lot of people, right? And so in Honolulu, there's certain speed traps. So those of you who live here, we kind of know where they are. So he got this message from Spirit, like there's a cop up ahead, and he thought, oh, I know where they wait. It's at this further down, going up the Pali. And so he thought he knew where it was. So he kept speeding. So what happens? He gets a ticket because the cop was closer than he was supposed to be. And Alan got all upset. And I said, well, I told you, Spirit tells you right when you need it, not like 2 minutes even later. So he got the ticket and he learned his lesson. You're right. Spirit only tells you what you need to know in the moment, not a second sooner. Don't act on the guidance. Don't expect more guidance, because that's the thing too. Here's what you need to do. If you do that, there'll be more. You don't do that, where are we going to give you more? You didn't even do what we suggested you do to start with. So that guidance can come from your guides. The guidance can certainly come from your loved ones, right? Like with Shaun, with your mom, and Alan. Oh my God, he's always like telling me, well, this would be better than that. Now it's constant. But I want to talk a little bit about for people who want to have this communication, this type of connection, because I don't want you to think that it's impossible. It absolutely is not. But I always tell people who are new to this to start with your belief, because you have to believe first. If you don't believe this is real, if you don't believe you can connect with someone on the other side who you love, then you can't, because that sets everything in motion. So that's what you have to start with first. Your belief has to be as solid as it can be. Now, that said, the other side is so strong that, yeah, they can override that sometimes to give you some evidence. But if you want this continual connection. You want to have this relationship through the veil that's alive, that's visceral, that is ongoing, like what Shaun's experiencing, what I'm experiencing. You got to go all in. At this point, I know Shaun and I we're all in. Like we've had so much evidence, and you're not there yet, and we get it, but you got to start with believing. Just that's it. If you don't believe, then nothing's going to happen, and that's all it takes is just trusting. So you have to not listen to the naysayers. You have to not listen to people who tell you you're imagining it, which some people will tell you that because they don't know any better. They're not having this experience. And because our world, especially the Western world, we're really programmed to not believe in this, but to believe in the more Western, way of thinking, scientific way of thinking, which is not the truth. Because we'll tell you, if you step beyond that, the boundaries of that, the box of that, you'll prove to yourself that the afterlife is real. And I tell people all the time, get your own evidence. Don't go looking for it in books. That'll get you started. But in the end, what is the real proof is you having some experience, whether it's subtle to start with or profound, later. You start with that. I mean, would you agree with that, Shaun?
Yeah, and I would also really work on, in that movie with Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb, when she left her, it's like old, right? Like, I don't know, 30 years old or something. But when she left her body and she was doing astral projection and as she's doing it, it's amazing. But the minute she let in some of those false beliefs, like, you can't do this, what are you thinking? Back in her body. And so what I've learned, because I'm learning everything from my mother and the rest of the gang on the other side. I never sent out to do any of this. At least my lower self didn't. So letting go of those false beliefs and judgments, and also expecting the person to be who they were when they were in a body, because oftentimes they're not at all like they were when they were in a body. My niece, who passed on, she had autism and severe birth defects. And so when she transitioned, within a day, she showed me, and she, how a dog, when it gets water and it like shakes its head after it's had some water, she did that. And what she was showing me is what it's like to be not in her autistic mind, but to be in her true mind. She also showed me this big pile of bricks in a net. And it was like a big crane lifting this pile of bricks off. It was like at a ship. And what she was showing me is to be free of her body. It was like a pile of bricks being taken off of her. But so what I wanted to share is one of the first times Pam kind of threw me in the deep end of a pool doing any sort of mediumship with people live. And it was a few years ago, and we were doing this event. And there was this lady there, and you probably remember this, Pam. Her son had passed on, and she's like, I can't, why, I try so hard and I can't feel him. And yet her son is like all around her, doing everything he can, trying to hug her and love her. And I'm here, Mom. But she's like, I don't know. I'm trying everything. But what she was really doing is she was stuck in these judgments and the past. She was blaming her husband or ex-husband. She even had blame for the son, and she had blame for herself. And so it's like she's holding on to the past and all of this stuff that is not true. Yeah, her son is right there saying how much I love you. And she couldn't hear him because she was so stuck in her false beliefs. And I remember it was kind of like that movie, Moonstruck with Cher, when I'm like, I just want to say, snap out of it. Like, your son is trying. Yeah. And so that's just such important too, that if you're expecting them to be like they were when they're alive, or you're holding like guilt or anger for maybe the last things that you said to them or something like that. They don't care about that, but they do want to have to heal the relationship, just like my mom, who continually is doing things to let me know that she's sorry and that she's here to make amends. And in fact, she just sent a song literally about a month ago. I hadn't heard from her song-wise for a while. And I was sitting outside the doctor's office, and I was just outside, and I was just kind of melancholy. I was just kind of like thinking about how this is not the life I planned. The life I planned was very different. And I was just feeling kind of melancholy. And within about 45 minutes, she sends me this song. I think their name's by Who Stink, and I think that's their name. And anyway, this whole song is, and then, so it was in the Uber, I heard it. And then later that night, I was watching a show, and here's the song again. And it's just letting me know how sorry, and that she never meant to do the things that she did. And that her whole focus is basically to make up for it now.
Yeah. And I love how you got to experience what your mom went through. Like, you got to have the actual experience. I mean, with Alan, he didn't give that to me. He had a hard time explaining why he had failed me as a husband. And it's like, because he didn't know how to say it. He was so full of guilt. He couldn't, I guess, give me that experience like your mom gave, because she could just showed you how she had grown up, right? What she had been through. So Alan didn't have anything of that. It wasn't like he could show me, yeah, this is what I endured. This is what made me the way I was. It was more like his choices after we got married, and how that led to the erosion of trust between us in our marriage and things like that. So he had a harder time, and it took quite a while for him to be able to say through other people, and then directly to me, what was that, what it was about. But yeah, they want to make amends, and they are not the same, and yet they are. I'm sure your mom has got her personality, but now it's the real her, because yeah, she was kind of crazy when she was your mom, so of course she's going to be different. But Alan still got his personality, still got his sense of humor, his silliness, but he's kinder, and he's more patient, and definitely way more loving, as I know your mom is, and all of your loved ones on their side, because they don't have their ego anymore. So they're just pure love. They're just pure unconditional love. There's no agenda. Why would they have an agenda, right? So yeah, but if people can let go of their limiting beliefs, their fears, if you got fear about the afterlife, you got to deal with that, because I've seen that be a big obstacle for people, because then they can't just trust. The thing I really want people to understand is the universe is benevolent. Okay, it is not assertive based. Things don't come at you like out of nowhere. It is all projected from your subconscious. Everything out here is you reflected back, and you're matching things that are from your subconscious. So any demons are your own inner demons reflected into your reality. And that's not the true nature of reality. Yeah, those things exist because every thought exists. So any thought of evil, any thought of demons, like, it instantly manifests. But that's really not the true reality, because the only reality is love, and that overrides everything. But we're so powerful, we can create the illusion that there is evil, or the illusion that we're separate from all that is, from love even. But I think I want to say it's just about trusting. Really, that's what I've seen with people who open up to this. The people who have the easier time are the ones who just know that's their loved one. They just feel that. They are willing to just go in and just learn, and not second guess. And the only time people struggle is when they start to doubt. But that's the physical mind, the conscious mind, that is made to do that. That is hardwired to keep us safe. Safe meaning, don't do something that I don't understand. Right.
And don't judge yourself if it doesn't work, because so I think most people probably know who Abraham is, Esther Hicks. So, she channels Abraham, but when Jerry, her husband, passed over, she couldn't hear him. She couldn't communicate with him, and she couldn't feel him. And I just love that story, because it just shows even her that, and it was because she was expecting her husband to be something and somewhere similar to the way he was in life. So literally, Abraham had to help Esther learn how to recognize Jerry from the other side. So, just remember that, that it's just don't be hard on yourself if you can't do it at first. And the other big thing is that when you have these little experiences and you're not sure, always assume it is what it is. Always, because what that does is it opens. So if you assume that this is your loved one, it's going to open you up more to the vibration that it is, which is then going to help them more and yourself. So always assume. And when you get those little thoughts in your head that say, oh, it's not them, oh, you're crazy, dismiss it immediately. That's your ego. That is, and just don't listen to that.
The
Only
ego,
listen to the loving voice that
yeah,
in
the
your
ego
head.
is not psychic. It's not really spiritual. It's just, let's say, a persona that we have to take on to live this illusion of being separate from everything, to be in this life. But it's not, that's why it falls away. So it's not going to tell you the truth about the other side for sure. And I think it's much better to get your information from them. I mean, people ask me all the time, well, what books do you recommend? I go, well, I haven't really read a lot of books. I actually just what I experienced through the other side, or what they tell me, or when I hear somebody say something, and I'll know, because I get the download. Yeah, that's right. That's not right. That's right. So I realized not too long ago that, well, I guess I'm a mystic then, because a mystic learns through direct experience, not through study. Not that I have read some books, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a big proponent of reading, because a lot of the information is actually quite distorted, not true. And I have to filter through it, and I hear spirit going, well, forget that, forget that, forget that. Okay, that's right. So it's exhausting. So I'd rather just ask the question, get the answer when I need it. And I try to teach that to the people we work with, the people we coach in our group. But yeah, just, believe and affirm that you are hearing that. If you say, I am hearing my loved one in spirit, you are declaring it, it has to happen, because you're creating it through your thoughts, your intention. If you say instead, I'm not sure if I'm hearing them, I don't know if I could do this, you're going to get more of that, because your statement is what creates your experience. So you don't really have a middle ground here. You either say, I am affirmed this, I believe this, or you don't. It's your choice. We can't go get, or they can't even get in your head and make you think that. They can put the idea in your head, but they can't make you really believe it and know it. You have to start turning your thoughts around, and that's why we work a lot with affirmations in our coaching program. So we help people like change their thought pattern. And other than that, you want to take questions now before we?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I want to share one more
go
thing,
ahead.
because I am so blessed. I can't even describe to y'all. To have this help that is available all the time, and the amazing stuff that they do. Until I met Pam, I wasn't really able to share what I was experiencing. And I spent over 2 years after my NDE, mostly on the other side. And, with my mom and my nephew and other people. So I really didn't share it with a whole lot of people. In fact, that's about when I started my Hawaiian sharing group. But so I had this So I did, after my NDE, I was doing everything I could healing. I was doing spiritual book studies, A Course in Miracles, and Paul Selig and Way of Mastery. And I would do Vipassana and Dharma talks several times a week. And then I chanted with the Hare Krishnas 3 times a week. And was just having all of these amazing spiritual experiences. But I also, in the NDE and on the other side, we're all perfect. But it seems like there are things we have to heal here in a body. So as I started getting more into this realm than the other realm, I started feeling some of the things that were coming up that needed to be healed. So I was going to, we have that Unity Church here that has this Wednesday night kind of healing session meditation. And I always try to be on time for these meditations and different things and, get there in advance. And so that's what happened for this thing. And so what's kind of funny is my mom was always late. She was never on time to anything. So as a result, I try to be on time. So I go to this meditation. I'm immediately connected with my mom and God and the light at the beginning in the chapel, and just in total peace. Well, some people come in late, like about 10 minutes into it. And I felt myself coming out of my peace and joy and kind of irked because they're making all this noise behind me. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm disabled and have all this other stuff and had to do 2 buses to get here, but I got here on time. So I'm being judgmental, right? And so my mom is here in the front. I focus back on her and her love. And what she did is she slowly she's in the front of the chapel, and she slowly comes around the side of me. So I'm following her and her light and her energy around the side of the chapel and behind me. And she puts the love and unconditional love that I have for her on these people that are driving me nuts. And it was wild because all my fears or my thoughts of judgment and irked at them, all gone. All of a sudden, I am loving them. And it was just so huge. I can't even explain, because she did that, not me. And I am just so grateful to have spirit that helps me be a better person and heal what I need to heal by just listening and trusting them. But I had to share that.
I never heard that story. I'm glad you shared that. Yeah,
I don't think I've told it to anybody.
I've never heard that. But yeah, yes, they will do that for sure. Come in and just, and it's, for me, it's a point where I feel Alan around me all the time, that even when I recently had to go to, I know I told you I had to go to the ER. It wasn't anything serious, but you wanted me to get it checked out. There was a guy who might've been homeless, and he was just screaming. Screaming, okay, through like in the ER. And I was like, not bothered at all. I was like, oh, is he okay? I just kept sending him, love. And it didn't, I couldn't believe I wasn't upset at all. It wasn't like irritating me, this guy. And I just felt concerned for him, and was just like I said, Alan, can you go help him? Can you go and just help him calm down? Because the poor guy was just really agitated, and the nurses didn't know what to do. So I know they can just help us in those times, just like keep you calm and just say it's all okay, and do what they can. So it's quite amazing. Yeah, let's take some questions. Before we go to the questions, just shout out to everybody before people leave, because I know we're going to go a little bit long. If you want help with connecting with a loved one in the spirit world, okay, please join my group if you've lost someone, because we teach about that every week for free. Usually I try to keep it to 45 minutes. I usually go to an hour. I can't seem to get Alan to talk any less than he does. So we cover a lot of different subjects, but we support people to connect with their loved ones in there's a lot to learn. We teach a lot about the nature of reality too, because if you don't understand how reality really is set up, then you're gonna struggle with this. So we talk about that, talk about manifestation, talk about, how to develop your abilities. And we're going to have a free channeling workshop coming up on August 11th through the 15th. It's called Channeling Your Soulmate. So you have to be in our group and you have to be someone who's grieving and wanting to connect. And by the way, all of your loved ones, as far as we're concerned, are your soulmates. Okay, we know soulmates usually meant for a romantic partner, but really, to us, they're all soulmates. So it's not just for somebody who's trying to connect with a partner. So, okay, if you want to join our group, there's a link here in the meeting, the Zoom meeting chat. But let's take questions. If people want to post their questions in the chat, Shaun?
Yeah, and there's already been some, and maybe David and Loretta, you can help. Karen Michelle, actually, what she would like to know is about accessing portals. Do you feel that there are more locations in Hawaii where there's complete nature, no sounds of pollution by traffic, etc., that makes it more easy to be in touch? So I'll tell you what I think, and I don't know, but this is my personal feeling. So many people believe that Hawaii is part of ancient Lemuria, and I'm one of those people. I didn't even know what Lemuria was, but the first time I heard about it, like I get these chills throughout my body. And then I'd become friends with some Hawaiian kahunas who actually, the ancient Huna wisdom actually comes from back then. And so there's all kinds of reasons, but all I know is that we definitely have more portals here. And even if you Google like vortexes of the world, Hawaii's one of them. I don't know how many there are, but all I know is that there are a ton. And I think that's probably why a lot of people come to Hawaii and have spiritual awakenings when they're here. I mean, I've had them in my sharing groups that I've led for like Spiritual Awakenings International. They don't even know I'm in Hawaii. And then they come and this one guy, he got off a bus on the west side of the island and he literally entered a portal and had a spiritual awakening right when he got off the bus. So what's your take? Yeah,
I haven't really thought about that or had experience like you have with your mom, seeing your mom. And I'll on the one thing I do know, like on the Big Island, on the where does that side, the Kohoa side? Well, that side where Kalapana, where the lava has flowed like this is, well, maybe this is a different kind of portal. It's more a portal for the extraterrestrials. I know there's a portal there.
Oh yeah,
one of the lava tubes, like some friends of ours who no longer live there, they're very much into alien communication, and they said that was a kind of a passageway, like they come through one particular lava tubes. Like my friends wanted us to come visit them. I just couldn't do that at the time. They wanted to take us into lava tube. I thought, I don't know if I want to go in that lava tube and see what happens. But I have no doubt there are other portals all over the place. Alan is saying to me that there a lot of those portals here in the islands are kind of, let's say, monitored or run by the indigenous people. I don't mean just in the body, I mean in spirit, on the other side, because he said they would do that. But there are portals throughout the world. I had met somebody who was Guatemalan, and he was talking about there are places in Guatemala where people would disappear. Like they'd go out in nature, go walking or something, they'd disappear and come back. In their mind, they came back like a day later, and it ended up being like a month later, like several months later or something. And they didn't know. They somehow came back, but he said some people don't come back. So they go through that portal. It's almost like a door opens and you go in, right, and it closes behind you. So Alan was saying, that usually exists a lot more in nature because we've built over those portals with our buildings and stuff. But Yeah.
And
So
Hawaii was originally that priestly class before. Now it's the elites that took about. Before the elites, the first ones were a priestly class, and they didn't even have a war.
yeah, well, when I first met Alan, when he first visited Hawaii, and I took Oahu, and I took him and his friend Barbara to the Waimea Falls Park, here on the North Shore. And they were walking through the park, and he wandered off by himself for a bit. And he said he heard a voice saying to him, "Welcome home." And I realized later that, because later other evidence came that he obviously had past lives in Hawaii, because he felt a connection to Father Damien, and other people commented too. And I realized later too that, okay, that valley was home to the Kahuna, so they were telling him, to Kahuna, welcome home, and he was shocked, because he wasn't at the time even planning to even come back to visit me, probably at the time, but they said, "Welcome home, this is your home." And so it ended up being so, though. Yeah.
Do you know what constitutes a portal? Somebody wants to know. For me, and I am a complete layman at all this stuff. I only know about any of it because I've experienced it. But I just think a portal is like more of a, it's where the veil's thinner. And
Yeah.
so it's literally, it's funny. I don't know who's telling me this, but it's just the
Yeah, the
veil
veil's
is
thinner.
thinner.
The veil is thinner.
And so it's easier for us and it's easier for them.
Yeah,
For
to
us
meet in the middle.
Yeah.
But
And
sometimes Alice says sometimes the veil is like, it's not there at all, and people just slip through and they go, "Where did I go?" Because people,
yeah,
that's why some people disappear.
right. And actually in Peru, I think it's causal or something. I know I just butchered the name, but there's an actual door cut in the stone there. And that happens there a lot. So yeah, they're all over.
He's
So,
showing me that series Outlander, like when she goes up to the
oh,
stone,
right. Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
goes through a doorway. Scotty's saying he's thinking of Sedona as well as.
Yeah, there is one in
northeast side of the
Sedona
mountain.
and Mount Shasta as well.
Well, Sedona has spacecraft, up over Bell Rock.
Yeah, Karen. So there is one open the water. It actually, according to ancient Hawaiian beliefs, it's actually a portal to go to Kauai. Did you know that? On the
Wait.
west side, there's.
I think you told me that. Did you tell me that?
Yeah, I think I did. So I haven't been in that one, but certainly a cheaper way to go to Kauai, right? What other questions do we have? Althea, do you want to put your question in the chat, or actually I'll just unmute you. There you go.
Hi, thank you. You know what? It says direct message because I typed something to you about use infrared film if you want to film etheric.
Oh, I saw that. I just couldn't
type anything to the group. I couldn't get.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, right now.
I didn't know how to do it.
Just type your questions and it'll come to me and I'll be reading then. I just wasn't reading earlier. I got like a ton of messages at once. But since you're here, do you want to ask the question?
I would love to, because I have a couple, so stop me because I don't want to over talk, talk too much. Since we each individual have our lessons that we are learning. I was told, I work as a medium and a psychic, and I was told a while ago that I would not see my mother or hear from my mother again. We had been talking, but that she was going to go on. She has gone into the aspect of consciousness and she's going on. Do either of you feel that, had you talked to Alan, Pam, and had you guys made a pact before you incarnated that you would meet, get married, he would go over, and then you would continue your relationship? Is he a guide now? Or, and then the other part of the question, and this is like for both of you guys, and like for Shaun, is there a point where your mom is going to go on, or has she talked about that she has other lessons that she's going on with, but she is still walking with you from time to time?
Right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll just the two parts of that actually. So Alan, when he came back to me, said that, yeah, we had made a soul agreement to continue our relationship after he passed. and that the real relationship was going to start now. That our marriage was just kind of a setup, if you will. It was just to create this, kind of, it wasn't like a bad marriage. This just wasn't as full and as rich and as passionate as it could have been. And it was for a reason. So he had explained to me why we had the challenges we had so that we could teach from that, because most people do not have perfect marriages or relationships. Pretty much, nobody does really have a perfect one, right? So he said, so we couldn't teach anybody if we had this idyllic, perfect marriage made in heaven. There's nothing to teach from that. He said he had to disappoint me. He wasn't abusive. It just wasn't, wasn't full, right? It wasn't as really deep as it could have been. So that was one thing. But to address the other part of your question about like then moving on or that kind of thing. The other thing that I know through studying consciousness, studying quantum physics and all that, is that we're multidimensional. So we exist in many different realities. Like in fact, he's telling me millions, really, if you want to, get down to it. And so do they. So we can't hold them back from anything. They can be with us for as long as they want, as long as we need them, whatever, mutual thing. And they can still be there learning, doing whatever. So he told me from the beginning, he says, in talking to a medium, because when he came back, he was called on, or we were called on by a medium. Her name was Gina, and I wrote about it in our book, who called out to us because she heard about us and heard that we could help. And so she literally called up Pam and Alan Johnson. Pam and Alan Johnson, I need your help. And Alan appeared in the backseat of her car, dressed in this gray suit that I have a photo of that he would dress when he would go out to meet people. She didn't know it. I showed the picture later. She goes, "Oh yeah, that's Alan." And he showed up in their car, and he spent like about a week or so with her in Sydney, Australia, in her home, because she can see spirit. So she's talking to him because she's British. So she had a lot in common because he's British. So he was visiting her, chatting with her. And she said, "Oh, I feel really bad, like I'm keeping you from Pam." And he goes, "You can't keep me from Pam. Nobody and nothing can keep me from Pam. I can be here talking to you and see how your husband is in the other room while we're talking here at the dining table." She goes, "Right." He goes, "Well, that would be like Pam, like she's right there. I can see her, I can hear her. You can hear him if he's calling out to you." She goes, "Yeah." He says, "So I can be with a million people and still be with Pam." So I don't believe in this idea that, we can ever hold them back. It's up to them, and they can be everywhere. He's saying to me that we are everywhere right now, because the truth is, you don't leave heaven to come into this body. You stay on the other side, right? You're expressing a part of yourself into this body. You're expressing part of yourself into all these other different bodies or reality. Don't always have bodies, but you know what I mean, like into other experiences, because you're multidimensional. So even the idea of reincarnation, like they could reincarnate, but they're still going to be on the other side. So they're not going to stop talking to us, even if they decide to take on a body, come back, take on a body here, because you're just exist as consciousness and you're everywhere. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I mean?
It does make sense to me. I understand it. I even hear how sometimes, especially if people are energetically splintered, how parts of them can leave and go off to another dimension and come back. And all of a sudden they're much more grounded, and they have information to process sometimes, not all the time. But I've seen that, but it's more, I think it's prevalent from the other side, because that ability is accessible. It's like breathing here. We don't have, I mean, well, of course, both sides are different. One thing, can I just tell you something about portals, to see what you think? Is I was in a place and I was thinking about the history, and all of a sudden I was back in that time. So I think sometimes our mind, we're in that place where the history was, and we're really like passionate about what happened, we can enter that.
Yeah, because the mind is a time machine. We're consciousness, right? That's why
Yeah.
we can, in our consciousness, have an experience of our loved ones in the non-physical. That's one of the most common ways that people actually experience the other side is through meditation, through
Yeah.
deep meditation, where you can connect and get your own evidence, right? Like get your
Yeah.
own experience. Because your mind, you take your mind with you, don't you? You are remaining this mind, well, you expressed a portion of yourself into this mind, but it's still higher mind. So yeah, you can go anywhere if you are open to that, believe that. But a lot of people don't, right? So they're going to shut that off. You know what I'm talking about,
Oh, I
right?
do.
So,
Absolutely.
but if somebody's open, sure, they can have profound experiences. It's just because that's the nature of who we really are. We're unlimited. We just believe that we're limited. And so that has to be the reality that we experience. So,
And about your
yeah.
mom.
If I can remember everything that I thought of while you were talking, because so one of the things my mom told me when I was 5 years old, that was about when I realized that she was going to die at some point. And I just always had, it's hard to, but we were sitting on this, we had this like, stairway with a landing halfway through. And we were sitting there and she promised me she will always be with me. And I never have to worry about that. And what was funny is I had forgotten that. And it wasn't until some friends of mine here, everybody always wants to introduce me to like, different spiritual people and so forth here. And there was this guy that does it's called Mahakari, which it's a light healing here.
I know that.
Yeah, it comes from Japan, I think around the same time as Reiki, but anyway, so some friends of mine, they wanted me to meet this guy that does that there, and he's also a SRF monk. And I was just looking because I think Kawise was here, because Kawise was, anyway, we all went to meet this guy, or they were with him, and I went to meet him for coffee. And what was quite amazing is immediately they all disappear. It's just me and this guy. And all of a sudden he's like, talking and I can tell he's starting to channel. And he starts talking about your mom. And he's like, and your mom's always here. And then he shakes his head and she's like, she's always here. And what was kind of cool about this guy is, and then he said, just like she promised you when she was 5 years old. And so we started talking more, and he starts telling me a lot more about my life, past lives, actually, that I didn't know. That I had a lot of subconscious memories of, but I was not. So here in Hawaii, we have kahunas, right? Well, we also have this thing called the kahuna ana ana. Actually, not now, but it's past. And a kahuna ana ana is a sorcerer. And they're like the guys that like kind of dangle you over the volcano pit and get you to tell them your energy, literally tell you everything. And then they suck out your mana and throw you over the pit. So I got to learn, and it was so weird because I called Pam actually, and I was like really bummed. I'm like, because I'm trying to do all these good things in this world, and but he said what I do now, bringing the people together for the light, that I actually did it then with the dark arts. And so it's literally like experiencing both. But my mom was with me then too. So my mom and I have been together a lot in many, many, many lifetimes. And she's always been there looking over me, but she also, growing up as a Mormon in Utah, she was teaching me all of this stuff. I went and learned how to do astral projection when I was 12, and astrology and iridology, and the list is endless. And it's like, it all makes sense now why she was teaching me that. So
yeah.
So she's
and why
definitely,
she was your mother. Gosh.
yes. Yeah. And so we have had this connection for eons and eons of time. And so she's guiding me to help, because she guided me then too. And that's what's kind of funny, is she actually raised me to have a healthy fear. And I don't know if fear is the best word, but just to be cognizant of the darker elements that are out there. And it was always a healthy fear, but it was there. And now I understand why, because she knows what I did in a past life. But it was funny because I called Pam and I was all bummed out. I'm like, really? And like we were talking about, it's not about, a lot of people talk about karma and everything, but it's not really karma. It's not like a punishment. It's because we want to experience so much. So I wanted to experience that side and what that felt like, and then this. So also to your question, Athena, about the Althea, sorry.
That's all right.
I did that at Spiritual Awakenings too. Remember?
I know, it was a great introduction till you got to my hand.
But it was that there was a Greek girl there named Athena. So I literally, anyway,
That's okay.
Althea. Now I lost.
You and I will have a life in Wales together, I'm sure of it.
Yes, for sure. So the question you said, I have been back now. So I have seen what I did when I was a Kuna Ana. And you can't. And it's pretty cool. And did I answer most of that question?
Yeah. You guys, I hope you guys do this again. You were so much fun, both of you.
Yeah,
hey, Shaun,
sure.
we've done it before. We've done it.
It's just been a couple of years, and it's definitely fun. Okay,
we could be
if there are
talking
any
for
more
hours.
Questions, I can ask more questions, but I don't want to hog the.
Yeah, why don't you let's see who else has questions, and then
come back to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let's mute me.
So David, Loretta, have you found any good questions that you want? Because I'm. Oh, so.
I want to say something, and then you can get to the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to speak to people who might wonder, like, well, what if is everybody capable of doing this? I mean, basically, I'd say yes. But also understand, some people, they're meant to move on. They're meant to, when we talk about partner relationships, that it isn't maybe something that doesn't have to be an agreement that you continue, because you can always decide that. But some people, they're meant to find another partner. In that case, your loved one is going to help you find that person. And the other thing is too, even if you decide you want to try this again, this is more for a partner, that you want to do this and it becomes too hard because you're young and you go, how can I, live this way? I'm having contact, but it's not enough. And then people feel bad about that. Your loved one just wants you to be happy. So they know that you're going to connect again, if whether you were married to them or not, they're going to connect again. So they're more concerned with, do you have what you need? Are you feel supported? Do you feel loved? This isn't like a journey for just everyone, obviously. I mean, I'm working with about right now, I know over 50 people that are in our academy who are pursuing. Most of them are people who are pursuing relationships, like partner relationships. So they're having these amazing experiences, but it's not easy. So I don't want people to think like, oh, okay, fun, I can go do this, right? Like it's not for everyone, and it probably never will be. But if that's the case, then that's not for you. You decide you try that, not for you. Fine. Your loved one will bring somebody into your life. Alan has told me that too. He says, if you're lonely, if you need somebody, I want you to be happy. I know that you and I are going to continue when you cross over, because that was the agreement too. But it's a long life in this body, not long in eternity, but when you're here. So whatever you need, I just want you to be happy. And that's pretty much what they'll all say, right? They just want you to be happy. So if you feel called to do that, if you feel you want to try that, it's definitely something you can explore. But by all means, don't think like, this is the only way. If you also feel like you want to move on, you need to find somebody that is in a body, that's beautiful too. Personally, Alan has spoiled me for any guy in a body. I will just tell you that, because he loves me in a way that no man has ever loved me before. Okay. And I think most of the people in my group would say the same thing, because the depth of love and support and connection are truly, mind-boggling.
And it's
I don't.
because that's real. You're connecting with
Yeah,
what's real.
It's
The-
real love. It's not attachment love. It's not
It's not
egoistic love.
transactional.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's real
Yeah.
love, unconditional love. And for partners, it can be fully passionate. Okay, full connection. That is, I'm still my mind's still being blown by some of the people that I meet and what they're experiencing. I go, I'll have some of that. But I'm gonna work on that, Alan. But it's all possible, guys. He says we're not blowing smoke.
And so you pretty much did just answer the person's question.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I
which
guess
is
he
good.
answered I guess
You,
Alan
you
answered the
answered it
question.
before I asked it
All
to you,
right.
because they were wanting to know about
There's no harm in trying to connect, to a partner. I'm talking about partners through the veil, to see, because at the very least, you're going to get them supporting you. If you do want to move on, you do want to find another relationship, and they're certainly going to be sure that whoever you meet is the right person. They're going to let you know, no, that guy is, not good for you. They want only for you to be safe, for you to be loved, for you to be treasured, all that. So they're on your side. Alan is saying you can't lose. You can't lose. You either can have that relationship with a partner through the veil, or they'll help you find somebody who will be wonderful to you. So I just really wish that especially widows, widowers would know that you have this love and support either way. And I know how hard it is to be grieving. Trust me, I know. But Alan helped me ease my grief in about 9 months. And I literally do not miss him anymore because he's always here and I have so much evidence of him. So I don't know what grief feels like anymore at all.
That's actually, that was one of the hardest things for me, is that not for me as a person, but for my family and everybody else, that I don't feel
No grief.
about, yeah. And so even when my niece developed cancer, it was weird for me because I'm not acting like everybody else and making the drama and stuff. My biggest thing was I didn't want her to claim the cancer. And so it was weird because I know that, and like when I didn't go to my mom's service, that, and now when people's loved ones pass and whatever, I just see it so differently. So it can be a challenge because I don't want people to think I don't care or I'm cold, but I just know it's actually a great thing. I mean, when my niece, I mean, to see her transitioning, after she transitioned, and to see she's now not in her autistic mind and she is out of this body that was weighing her down, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it took me a while, though, to tell my sister because, like I wasn't going to say that right away. But in fact, I think when I told my sister, she said how much it helps, because it was maybe a month or so later that I told her that. And but something that Althea had said, and people ask this all the time, we're not holding them back. They can, like Pam saying, it's a multi-dimensional universe. They can do lots of things. They're much better at multitasking than we are. And I mean, my mom, what's amazing is I've been with her and I'll be talking, she's here with me, and then talking to my sister in South Carolina on the phone. And the sister in South Carolina, she's like, she's never, I'll never feel her or see her. And my mom said, she said, tell her to, she needs to deadhead the zinnias, because my sister is out in her garden. And sure enough, she has some zinnias that need to be deadheaded. I'm like, see, she's with both of us right now, And so my nephew, who many of you might have heard before when I've shared the story, when I was in the ICU and they were taking me off life support and they were taking out the tube, my nephew, he'd passed from cystic fibrosis in 2007. So as they were pulling me off the tube, he was at the end of the bed and he was kind of up. And he was, so if you know Foghorn Leghorn, the cartoon character, he puffs his chest up like that. And he's showing me how to puff up my chest because I've been on a ventilator for a couple of weeks and I hadn't breathed properly for about 3 months. My saturation had been like 40s and 50s. And for those of you who know, alarms go off if you're below like 82 and your oxygen saturation. So anyway, as they were pulling me off and pulling the tube, he shows me, he puffs up his chest. And just as the tube comes out, he shows me how to breathe in. And then he breathed into me and I could breathe. I still had a lot of other issues, so the oxygen saturation didn't stay, but I could breathe at least. Then I had to wear an oxygen mask for another month. But I'm bringing that up because my nephew has actually reincarnated. And he's reincarnated to someplace very far away that may not even be on this planet. It looks like New Zealand, though. I got to see what it looks like and what his life is like. And, so people always have these questions. Can we communicate with them when they've reincarnated? And what I love about my mother is she is my greatest teacher and she teaches me all this stuff that it's like. And so I asked her, I'm like, so how is he doing that? And he will come he doesn't come as often, but he will come. He had cystic fibrosis, and I was talking to a friend about 3 weeks ago that had his daughter has cystic fibrosis. And there was my nephew. In fact, he was like he wanted to step inside and have me channel him for my friends. But I asked, well, how do they do that if they're already reincarnated, And basically my understanding that it was explained to me is, we all have our oversoul or our higher self that is a collection of all of our lives, all of our memories. And that part of us is always on the other side. And so the part of my nephew that I know of my nephew, because he's now a different person, the part of him that I know as my nephew is on the other side, has not reincarnated. And so that's how we're able to communicate. And so for people that have asked, are we stopping them from doing their work? No, he's actually, I've seen him. And what's kind of cool is he's in a very less technologically advanced place. So I get to see him out working in his garden and so forth. And so I just wanted to share that because there are people that are mistaken thinking that we're holding them back from whatever they need to do. And they're capable of doing it. Some people, I don't know if Althea alluded to this, but some people actually, or spirits, they go and learn things on the other side. Because some of them don't know how to communicate very well with their loved ones. So from what I understand, they can take a break and go do that, right?
That's what Alan said, that his job was to teach souls on the other side how to communicate through the veil. And I said, really? That's a thing? And then he directed me to a book written by a medium who's kind of said, yes, there are spirits on the other side who teach them to speak through, to this world. And he goes, see, I told you, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So it's amazing what they do for us. But one thing I did want to say is, because when I posted about our event in this another group, this person came on adamantly saying that there is no marriage in heaven. That's just fantasy thinking. right? And I said, okay, hold on a minute. So the other side, which is limitless, which is God, creator, whatever you want to call it. Okay. You're telling me there are restrictions. I don't accept that. You know, the other side is limitless. It's like whatever you want and more is there. I said, why wouldn't there be? And this person was just saying, well, you know, no, it can't be because this is our human thinking. And Alan said to me, you're dealing with a person who probably has never been in love or maybe has even lost anybody. He says, so move on. Like,
Yeah.
don't listen. Because of course there's marriage on the other side. There's everything, whatever you want. Does everybody choose that? No, you know, but it's up to you. You're an aspect of the creator. You get to decide your rules. It's your rules here when you're in a body, by the way. You just don't know it because you get to create your experience. So why would that change on the other side? You get to have free will. You get to choose. You could get to have what you want. Marriage if you want, not married if you want, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So let me, I'm going to answer this question before I lose it. Okay. Because this chat moves fast sometimes. But so somebody asked Sherry, you said, if I understand right, you said that if we fail to follow guidance offered by spirit or loved ones, then we won't get any more since we ignored the first attempt. But I, for one, am still learning, so I know I miss things often other than not. I need to learn the signs and signals, so will spirit stop sending spiritual guidance? No, I didn't say that, and I'm sure
no,
Pam didn't
it's not
say
quite,
that.
it's not quite that. It's like if you want that piece, they'll give you what you can work on, right? Like what you can work on. And if you didn't get it, they're going to send you the message
Right.
again.
And it goes with, they don't punish us.
Yeah,
They're
it's
trying
not
to help.
that.
It's like,
They're going to
sorry,
keep
you weren't
sending
listening.
you the message.
You're on your own now. No,
right?
that was
So,
when she was in a body that
yeah.
she
It's
say
not
stuff like that.
then you get, because they told me it's like step by step by step. So if they showed you the big picture, which by the way, it's hard because, you know, you're creating your reality, you're creating your future. So for them to say, oh yeah, this is going to happen in a week, they're not going to do that. They're going to give you what's pertinent now. And then if you miss it, don't worry, they're going to find another way to get through to you. So if it's important, they will definitely get through to you. So then you act
we're
on
here
that.
to learn lessons. It's not like they're gonna give us a shortcut
Yeah,
to not learn what we're supposed to be learning.
Right. And they don't see, they say there's things you're going to have to go through and some of it might be hard. So we can't expect that they're going to save us from every quote catastrophe, because there can be a reason why we have to go through that. But they can help us avoid the things that we don't have to go through. So, because those were optional, if that makes sense. But yeah, they will give you, the more you trust and take action, like a little bit of action, the more you get. Because Alan's saying, yeah, because you get back what you give out. So
Right.
yeah, I trust, you're going to get more reasons to trust. If you
Yeah,
doubt,
and when we're not listening, it's not like a punishment. Pam and I did a thing a couple of years ago, and Alan, so
remember,
sometimes me
so
and Pam can just
funny,
go and go and go.
because like we're doing now, and we had said, okay, we're gonna stop at 2 hours. This was like around the holidays.
He was concerned about her.
I think he was concerned about you too, because you later told me you hadn't eaten and you were really fatigued. Okay, I was kind of okay, but we said we're going to stop at 2 hours. So the 2 hour mark came, like it's almost coming now, and all of us, and I said, because we said, oh, it's almost 2 hours, and I said, oh, we can go a little longer. Well, he didn't apparently like that. So my friend Swati, who was on with us, she was on camera too, because we were doing readings and fun things like that. And so her Google Home device started to say, disconnect, disconnect, disconnect. And she had to shut down her computer and mute it or whatever, because she thought, what is that about? She didn't realize till later that it was Alan saying, get off, like get off, unplug, get off the line.
And to me, he was getting so annoyed. Yeah. And
your phone started to melt.
My keyboard stopped working. And I was like, I couldn't control the Zoom room. So they do, well, they'll do stuff like that, but it's more like just, it's always a gentle nudging, but they do have fun sometimes.
Yeah, and that was just so funny though, because it was so clear that that was him, and he said, "Off, that's enough already." But he's come through before when I was teaching, and Swati would say, he wants you to get off, you're hungry, you need this, you need to eat. And I go, "I'm fine." "No, you need to." He's almost like pulling me off the stage, like with a hook, like, "Get off camera now, it's enough already."
Yeah. So Anna says a medium told her there's no such thing as soulmates on the other side. So hearing this validates my belief.
Okay, so hold it right here. I just want to tell everybody here, please, they're amazing mediums, but they're still human and they have belief systems. Okay. Don't expect mediums, not all mediums, to go out there and you tell them you're having this relationship with the veil, that they're going to say, great. Some of them, even one, I won't say his name, but he's world famous, will tell you, "Oh, your partner must be earthbound then." Or you're holding them back, like what we were talking about here, right? You're holding them back and you need to move on. That is what most of them have taught, that we're supposed to live here and let the dead go. And we're kind of disrupting the whole paradigm here by telling you that's not necessarily true. If you want to believe that, you're welcome to it, but we're here to tell you that's not what's happening with a lot of people. So you're free to choose what you believe, but please do not think that all mediums know everything. They just don't. And I recently heard, some of you might know of Sandra Champlain and her group, her website, We Don't Die, and the work that she does. And I've been asked to be on her podcast next month, but she was ranting about this beginning of the year about the state of mediumship, because and I'm not trying to put down any medium who's watching, okay? You guys are cool. I love and adore you. And we're not talking about you. But she was just upset because there are too many mediums who are not well trained and who are spouting nonsense, and they don't realize that the words they're saying to people could put somebody's life in jeopardy, because some of these people are suicidal. So if you told somebody that there's no marriage in heaven, that person could take their life. That's just how it is. So be really careful what you're saying.
Thing is for people to trust your own guidance. Like she's saying,
yeah,
they're validating her belief, but there's a part of you that knows the truth.
That there are soulmates.
Yeah. And so, when you think about these infinite lives and these infinite dimensions, and it's like, yeah, what's the definition of a soulmate? I mean, a lot of times for me, soulmates have been actually the biggest narcissist in my life have been my soulmates, because they have taught me through their lack of love, they taught me how to love myself. And so soulmates aren't always what we think of. So many people think it's like this, and me and my mom, we're soulmates. We keep doing this again. And, she tried to kill me in this lifetime a couple of times.
And apparently that was pre-planned, right? Like you and I talked about that. We planned these challenges, these things like that your mom was going to be abused as a child, as an adult even. And then she was going to pass it on to you. I mean, why do you think these things happen to us? Guys, if we were to live just a life of just pure, everyday sunshine, a Disneyland cartoon, we would have stayed in heaven. Like, we came here to have some challenges. And I know for some of you, it's really hard, like what you're dealing with. And I'm not trying to diminish that, the challenges you have, but we chose this. And Alan's reminding me, because this is the time of awakening, some people put a lot on their plate and said, I'm going to try to clear or learn as much as I can. And it was a bit too much. So they're struggling. So that's what we're seeing with some people having really, really hard times. And we give our compassion to them and try to support them, but it's still not a case of being a victim or that you were forced to come here. It's a free will universe. You have choice. always, because you're a consciousness that never ceases to exist. So you
And
create
because
these
we have free will, we always have to ask. They're always around us, but we have to ask. They're not going to interfere unless we invite them. But so I need to, I've been reminded that we're at 2 hours now.
Yep.
So,
Who's reminding you? Your
sorry,
mother?
this is
your
what
mother
kind of
reminding?
happens when Pam and I do this. But I just
Yeah.
want to thank everybody. And if you do have to leave, and if you did have to leave, I'm sorry that we went over, but oh well. And there will be a recording available. If there's any last few questions of people who have not asked a question that you want to ask, please, let's do it now. Because
in the meantime,
yeah.
I want to point out a comment by Michelle Farrow, who's in my group, and she's saying her husband of 44 years started contacting her one day after he crossed over. She wasn't expecting this. She doesn't believe in this. I'm hearing so much of that from people. Like, I didn't believe in this stuff, and this stuff that started happening to me. So that just shows you it's not your imagination when you weren't even believing it to start with. Alan's saying it's because the partner on the other side is so coming through so strong and saying, I don't care, I'm here. I want you to know I'm here.
Right. Yeah. Jennifer, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I had a question, and if it's okay with you, that comment, the connection I had when I asked you that question, you don't remember?
Which question? No.
When I emailed you and I asked you a question about a phrase that might be pertaining to your life. You don't remember it.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
No, you asked me a question if something meant something. But honestly, I don't remember what it was. That's one of the many blessings of the NDE is I don't hang on to stuff.
If it's okay, because I just wanted to, it was a connection that you actually had with your mother. And
yeah,
after I had gone through my NDE, I have this like psychic thing that happens to me, and I feel like this magnetic pull. And I had that one day with you, and then I asked you this question. I said, does this phrase hugging your soul mean anything to you? And then you mentioned that, yes, it's something that you and your mother shared. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There was a connection, a little connection there. But the question I had was, on occasion, my brother-in-law will come to me, and recently he had about a month ago, and he asked me to ask my sister to please try to forgive him so he could move on. And I know there can be different planes and existences, but I'm wondering if he meant some deeper kind of meaning to that.
Well,
I'm not sure.
yeah, they do carry guilt and sorrow for things that they've done, and they love it when we forgive them. That was one of the first things my mom, but the funny thing is like, for me, there was nothing to forgive once I knew.
Right.
So yeah, they and of course everyone's different, but it's important in most cases for us to forgive them and realize they did the best that they could when they were alive.
He gave me the impression that he's stuck somewhere and he needs that forgiveness. So I did talk to my sister, and it kind of rocked her world, and she's been thinking about it. But I just was wondering if there's more of a meaning. Okay,
well, yeah, but clearly, actually, he's got to do some work on himself too, because that's really the only judging that goes on the other side is us judging ourselves. So he's still judging himself, partly also if he's feeling trapped. So that would be the thing to communicate with him is forgive yourself for whatever you think that you did. And
that makes
yeah, thank you. Okay. Scotty, did you have a question? Or was that a comment that?
Yeah, that was just a comment, Shaun, a suggestion, how you did that, manifested your home.
I didn't do it. They did it.
Well, yeah, but
I got myself right into the ICU.
oh
So-
yeah. Okay,
So,
that was just
Yeah, no, so what Scotty is referring to is in 2004, I had a hernia that strangulated on the plane from Los Angeles coming to Hawaii. I never wanted to move to Hawaii. I was very happy in my illusory world of financial success and houses and cars and so I was happy there. But that's not what was planned. And I didn't plan it. My higher self did, you know, and my guides and my mom and all that. So basically when my hernia strangulated and I went, most people die within 24 to 48 hours. And I went like 72 or more because back then I wasn't doing Western medicine. So I didn't even go to a hospital first. I went to a naturopathic doctor on the Big Island, down there in Puna, which is definitely very spiritually active. And my chest was turning black and blue, and I should have known. And of course, this holistic doctor should have known too. But anyway, long story short, when I finally went to the hospital, went in, and that's where I had, like I call a distressing ND, because it was more dark and void. And I saw the light, but I was not going there because I realized where that led. And I'm like, no, I won't die. I'm not going to accept it. And then I'm going to be one of these trapped spirits here in this jungle hospital in Hilo, because there's tons of spirits. And I'm like, and nobody will find me. So anyway, at some point I did go to the light. I had this emergency surgery. And because they had to cut out like 7 feet of necrotic intestines and it was all bacteria and everything, I couldn't leave Hawaii and I had to stay. And I was a real good manifester back then. And that's like, you know, Pam was saying earlier, I mean, we're all manifestors, we're all creators. And I manifested a ton of money and a ton of houses and a ton of stuff back then. And then of course, the opposite happened. And so anyway, I said, okay, if I have to, you know, literally, I was like, well, can I like take a cruise ship back to LA, or like, you know, literally trying to find all these ways to get out of here and get to a real hospital in LA. And so I said, fine, if I have to stay here, I want to recover by a waterfall. Well, sure enough, next day, Homes and Land magazine, 8 acres in the most beautiful street that I was actually on when I was 1.5 years old, on the Big Island. They call it Onamea Bay, which actually means the most beautiful place. And I had private waterfalls, private streams, 3 houses. And remember, I love plants, right? And I was a licensed California landscape contractor. Every kind of tropical plant, every kind of fruit, the most amazing place. And so, yeah, so when I got out of the hospital, it just so happened that it was for rent and for sale. And so I got out of the hospital and rented it and rented the whole place and then bought it over a period of time. And so to me, alignment, manifesting is when we're in alignment with what we've already is in our highest and best good. And so what's amazing about that is I had to manifest it all so that then I could lose it all too, because it then took another, I don't know how many years between 2004 and 2000. So another 14 years of spiritually transformative experiences and ego death and losing everything so that I would know that this world is just an illusion and the other side is the real world. So, but still, when we manifest, it's when we're in alignment. And It's always what's in our highest and best good, I believe. What do you think, Pam?
Well, you can manifest what you want or manifest what you need, because they're not always the same thing. But a lot of people manifest all kinds of crap that they want, and it doesn't make them happy. So you're manifesting all the time anyway. But I suggest to people that you reach for manifesting what you really need, because that means you will truly be happy.
Well, yeah, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. I
When
see
people-
people manifesting crap that they go, oh my God, what did I just do? I go, yeah, because you can manifest whatever you put your thought behind. That doesn't mean you should.
Well, and people all the time, they're like, oh, I want a near-death experience.
Oh God,
It's like,
no.
you
just
really
say,
should
no,
think
no, no,
that
no, no,
through,
no.
because it's not fun. I honestly, I am grateful now for all these experiences. But if I had the choice to go back and redo them, no, I'm done.
Have a spiritually transformative experience without hurting the body. Because
Yeah.
that's what I went through, just through intense channeling for 5 months. And it just opened me up. So I'm in favor of a near death without dying, or an STE, as it's also called. I
Yeah.
think that's just the easier path.
Is there any other last questions before we start wrapping it up? I just really want to thank you all. This has been so much fun today. And hope you will all join us on Tuesday. David Maria is an amazing person. He was our speaker on the 1st, and he will be leading us in holding many of us and the years and stuff. We're not always in our body. In fact, some of us are mostly out of our body. So he's going to be leading us and helping us get back in our body. And then on the 1st of August, we're going to have PMH Atwater, who we're going to be speaking about childhood and the years. If you guys know who PMH Atwater is, she's an amazing experiencer and researcher who has done 19 books on near-death experiences. So that will be on the 1st. So with that, I just want to thank everybody and thank Maria and David and Loretta, who were helping with the chat.
Yeah.
And thank you, Pam. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thanks, Shaun, for joining me. But let's do it again. And one last plug for our group. If you guys want to learn how to connect with your loved ones in the spirit world and you're grieving, it's not that hard. I've had people that have never had a session with me, never joined my academy, who tell me all the time how much they've been helped. So we are teaching there for free every week. And Alan said we will do that until I can't do it anymore. Until I can't. We're committed to that outreach for people. So thanks. Yeah, we'll have fun. We'll do it again.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Aloha. Have a great rest of your night. And
Aloha.
hopefully we'll see you on Tuesday. Okay.
Bye, everybody.